Okay, I'm at the Fantasy Farm, the Belleville Fantasy Farm with Katie and Kathie Preddy, and they have a litter of 5 girls. I'm going to let Katie talk about the parents and identify them by their registered names and talk a little bit about what her expectations were when she did the breeding, and some of those, and then compare those expectations to what she's seeing in these puppies. So when you're ready, Katie.
So these are out of our Tri-Bitch Champion Barksdale Belleville's Double Trouble. Bred to Champion Creek Wings Black Woman, I'll Be Damned. We ended up going to him because he had a couple of characteristics that we really liked. Mostly his big outline and powerful movement were really big key features for us. We wanted to lock down that movement in our breedings, and he also has a really beautiful eye, which we were looking to carry on as well. I think, this is our first smooth breeding for us, so there are definitely some things that we have been learning to look at a little differently than we have with our roughs in the past, just because obviously they're not quite as plush when they're this age. This one is our only sable bitch out of the litter. All the others were tries. So looking at her, we were pleasantly surprised with her eye. She has a lot of white on her. We're not exactly sure where that's come from. But she's definitely had a beautiful eye. She's got a great length of neck and outline when she stands herself up. And she's got some great underdraw, which is something we also really liked about Dammit and we were looking for in this breeding.
Okay, can you turn her sideways so I can see the profile? Okay, that's good. Oh, perfect. Yeah, great.
They have all pleasantly been very active and happy puppies. Definitely little showmans all of their own, looking for attention from everyone, which has been great. And the litter across the board has had great outlines, great little bodies on them. Obviously they're a little young to start evaluating gait and stuff like that, but they all seem to have really nice body structure to them at this point.
Okay, how old are they today?
Today they are 3 weeks, I guess. Today? No. 4 weeks on Thursday. 4 weeks on Thursday, excuse me. 3.5.
Tomorrow, you're right. Okay.
So they are kind of at a little bit different, they're one of those in-between ages. Some things are rounding out and smoothing out. They've all been very clean and have really nice flat skull. One thing that was different from us, I think, than most of our other breedings is usually ours are a little more rounded at this age, and then their faces start to really pull out. These have seemed to have a little bit more of what I would call an adult head on them at this age, which we don't usually have, so that's been something that's been different for us. And their eyes have been just a touch different than what ours usually look like at this age, but I think that's something that maybe is a smooth versus rough thing, just the way it looks to me. But they've been a nice litter so far. We've been pleasantly surprised. And
okay, and this one's name is Ginger?
This one is Ginger.
Okay.
This litter was, when they came out, 5 girls. We tried to think of something that had 5 girls. Well, Spice Girls were 5, so they were all named after a Spice Girl.
Okay.
So this is the only sable bitch out of the litter. This is Ginger. She has kind of been one of probably the 2 that have been the least staging out of everybody. She's stayed pretty similar. Her eyes have never changed much. She's never gone through too much of the uglies at this point anyways. I think out of the litter she has the prettiest eye, at least right now. She is also probably the biggest out of all of them. She's the heaviest. She's the probably has the most muzzle and the most bone out of all of them. The others are a little bit.
She got a little more Dammit.
Yeah, she's definitely a little more of her dad than the others who are a little more of their mom. We talked about that in the first video a little bit of, you know, when you do an outcross, are you looking to bring things that are still your stuff in, or are you looking to bring in any of the stuff from the outcross? So she's kind of that mixture of her dad that we got out of the litter. Definitely has a lot of white on her, is very flashy. I don't know out of this litter, I don't think she has the most neck out of any of them, but she certainly has a nice neck and layback of shoulder when she's standing up. Good bone underneath her. She's got a good little personality. She's got a little bit more substance in the back here, but hopefully that is something that will pull itself out as she grows here some. Her half brother had that a little bit when he was younger, and his head got really pretty and clean as he got a little older. So hope for some of that as well. But I think she does have probably the nicest eye, and she's got a nice little stop, kind of right where it should be. She's got some colorful markings on her, so she takes a little bit when you start to look at her to kind of find all the pieces, because some of the white is a little painted on.
Can you turn her in sideways, because we were talking about she had a marking that kind of contributed to
she's got this
her
marking
appearance
here across her jaw on both sides. It is her white that almost comes up partially up her face. It adds a little bit to her. I mean, her white connects all the way down from her tip of her chin all the way down her chest to her front legs.
Well, that's weird. And that's a learning thing we talked about, because this is our first smooth litter, and looking at the underjaws and cleanness and muzzle is a little harder, because they don't have the hair that we're used to. So we're looking more at the outline of the bone and the structure on these puppies.
That's good.
They are all smooths. This one here is Scary.
That's her name, not an adjective, right?
That is her name, not an adjective. You know, she is actually a little different from her other sister. She is a little more square and has a little bit shorter head at this point than the others. But again, there have been some very strong similarities with underjaw, flatness of their skulls, neck, and everything at this point. So here's Scary. She is the same litter here. She is probably our one in this litter who has staged the least. She has been a great little compact body, well put together puppy from the very beginning. Is very rounded through here, has a nice little stop on her, nice and clean underneath. Her eye, maybe not quite as pretty as Ginger's, but definitely still a nice eye, something that I think will certainly settle some with age and become what her mother's is, hopefully. Pretty little puppy, very compact everywhere. Not quite as long, I don't think, as the others in her litter, but a good, strong, solid bone underneath her and build.
Okay, is this a typical time that you would do ears, and what helps you decide when you're going to start doing that and how long you do it for?
So we have tried to start around 7 or 8 weeks. You know, when they feel like they've gotten big enough that they're starting to kind of fall off the sides some. We really want to get them up on top of their head so that they can't settle there on the side of. We want them to be nice and tight up top. This was actually a learning curve for me when I did these ears. I'm gonna have to redo them because I did them the braces the width for roughs with all the hair in between, so they're not quite as tight as I'd like them to be. So I need to redo them and get them a little tighter up top. And you know, as far as having the braces on them, I like having the braces on them until they're well into their 4, 5, 6 month kind of frame to really keep them up top and tight. If I have any issues with them, I keep them as braced as long as I need to. But as far as being taped over and tipped over, I think we do that probably well into a year and a half or so, just to make sure that. And if I've ever noticed that they're starting to go up either with the heat or girls in season, obviously these are girls, but if I have boys and they're girls in season around, we'll tape them over so that there just isn't any worry that they're going to go up and stay that way. I mean, obviously as they go through their stages, they're going to get, you know, different points. With this litter's actually been interesting. They've all gone through at least one stage where their ears went straight up as a baby, and then it was like their ears grew all of a sudden and they folded back over. So they've all gone through that at least once, some of them maybe twice at this point. But yeah, we try and get them up 7, 8 weeks and keep them up at least 4 or 5 months through the teething stages and growth spurts. So this is Scary.
Okay, all right.
This is a little sporty Spice. She doesn't have quite as much roundness or muzzle to her as some of the others have, but she was the smallest when she was born, so I don't know if she's just still catching up or if she's going to be a little more like her mother and it take a little bit more time to come on. But she's definitely probably the most outgoing of the litter at this point. She always wants to be involved. She was the only one we were holding out was maybe a rough, but I don't think so. This is, we call her Sporty. This was the Spice Girl litter. She was definitely the smallest of all of them when we started, and we weren't really sure what would happen with her, but she's actually probably come the farthest so far. Has a great little profile, nice little outline. Has definitely called up to her sisters. I would say probably out of the litter has maybe the second prettiest eye out of the group, in my personal opinion. Has some nice roundness, not as much muzzle as some of her sisters, but pretty little puppy, pretty little body on her. Has a nice little stop right now, similar to her mother, so we'll see if that
No, let's turn her this way because get some light on her face. She's so dark. There, okay, yeah, right there. There. Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Ready? Sporty. Sporty. Hey, come here. Okay, can you like let's see, stack her? Can you stack her?
Yep.
Can you see her whole body shape or not? Okay, that looks really good. All right, and this one was Sporty.
This one was Sporty.
Okay. All right.
Good job. Very similar to some of her sisters. She has a little bit different eye, though. Hers is just a touch more almond shaped than it is maybe a tri-corner. It has a great little body on her, very round, full muzzle. Definitely maybe a little more fullness of her under her eye than some of the others. Oh, come back. Maybe just a tad less underjaw than the others.
Okay.
So this is Baby. She's more similar to Scary than probably to like Sporty or Posh. She's a little more compact in her body, not quite as square as Scary is, but definitely a little more, what?
More bone.
A little bit more bone, a little bit more substance to her. Nice little, again, she's nice little personality. She's a little bit more reserved than her sisters. I mean, when she decides she wants to play, she's definitely all in for WrestleMania, but she definitely isn't quite as extroverted as some of her sisters are. Her eye is a little more round, I think, than the rest of them, but she still has a nice little stop, nice roundness around here. They all had incredibly flat back skulls, which was really nice, but different for us. You know, we're used to the roughs where we get a little bit more dome fluff as they're going through the 4 or 5 week old stage, and these were, I mean, they came out of trouble completely flat skull. So that was a little bit different for us looking at them, and they kind of stayed that way, and they're still all very, got a little bit more curve to them now, but they're very flat in the back skull. She's obviously not as much white as some of her sisters, but still has nice full white on the show side. She was on that side.
I think she's going to have a nice length of head.
Mm-hmm. She probably has a little bit more length of head with full fill and underjaw than some of her sisters do. Pretty little puppy. Definitely a great little easy companion for anybody. I mean, she's very loving towards her people. She has a nice, she might have a little bit nicer ear set than some of the others. They're a little tighter on top of her head and not quite as wide a base of the ear as some of the others. But nice little puppy. This Baby.
Okay, Baby.
And then we have Miniature Trouble. This is Posh. She has only of the tries that has the full white all the way around. She has a slightly different eye set, I think, than the others, but is very much like her mom. As well. And a great length of neck and a great carriage.
It's real good. Right.
All of them are very clean. Haven't really found any depth of on them. Just been nice. Expected that. For sure with Miniature Trouble. But this is Posh. She's an interesting one in this litter. You know, she's a little bit different. Her eyes are a little bit different than all the rest. She has maybe a little bit more of an almond-shaped eye than a tri-cornered eye like some of her sisters do. She doesn't have quite the muzzle that the others do, or the underjaw that the others do, but she's got a really nice little body on her, and she's got a great front. Stand yourself up there. All have great
pull her-
personality.
Pull her front up underneath her a little bit. There. Better.
You gonna go up the table?
Okay,
She's
that's
bad.
good.
She definitely has the personality out of the group. She does think she deserves all the attention. All these puppies have had great temperaments. Really haven't had any that are scared of much or uneasy about much. All have been pretty happy puppies all along.
All right, talk about why you think that is, about how many family members and how much good socialization
So
they've had.
our puppies probably get the max of what many people would say is too much. We have 10 great nieces and nephews in our family, and they are constantly upstairs with these guys, in the box, in the pen with them, pawing over them, flipping them over, spinning them around. And they have just really tolerated that well, have loved having the kids there. And so they get a lot of attention. Plus have multiple adult dogs that come up and see them, their mom, their half-sister, their Uncle Cowboy, who's the Australian Shepherd in the group, all come to play with them. So their temperaments have really shown through on these puppies. Careful. But pretty puppies, we're excited for them. We're, again, being the first smooth litter, we've had a little bit of a learning curve difference, but we're excited to see where they go. This was definitely an outcross for us, but excited to see what these guys look like in another 3 or 4 weeks.
All right, so like today, if you had to pick one, which one would it be and why?
For me personally, and my mom might have a different opinion, so we sometimes differ at this age on puppies. For me, the sable bitch would probably be my pick. I think because of her shape of her eye and her eye set at this point, she just has a little bit of the sweetness that I really like. She tries to eat her sister here. She just has a little bit of that sweetness on her face that I recognize a little more. But I also, one thing I really like about her is that she does remind me of her dad, which I think if you're going for an outcross and you're going to bring something in, you're looking for something in particular there, so it's important to find the one that does have some of those characteristics from their sire. So, come here.
All right, Kathy, do you have a pick?
If I had to pick today, would probably be Baby.
All right, hold her up.
Come here, you. Oh, come here, tough. Oh.
And for what reason?
Well, I really love Posh, but this one has a little bit more muzzle, roundness of her face, a little bit rounder at the stop area, and she looks a little more familiar to me than some of the others, or much leaner heads with almost not a lot of stop, and this one looks more familiar to me.
Okay, do they kind of meet your expectations, or, I mean, from when you did the breeding, are they kind of like what you expected, or tell me how they are and how maybe they're not? And I realize they're younger, so, we're going to do this again in a month,
Right.
but it'll be interesting to compare.
They are smooths, which obviously we didn't expect to get all smooths. We didn't expect to get all girls. But their heads are different from our family's heads at this age. They have less stop. Their skulls are flattened out more. Their noses are out a little more. So I don't know, because it's an outcross, what that's going to lead to.
I think there are some things when I look at them that I did expect. I mean, their bodies, their personalities, things like that, I certainly expected out of these puppies. Damon obviously is a very charismatic, strong mover, beautiful body and outline, which I think we see in these, but like my mom said, there are definitely some differences in what their heads look like in comparison to what ours usually look like at this age. So that was something that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just different than what I was maybe expecting or have seen. And I do think some of it is the smooth. There's less hair on them, so you see a little more of that structure and that build of the head and the muzzle right up front, whereas in the rough some of that gets a little clouded, or it's not as in your face. But
This is the one that's going to be the prettiest, right? Okay, this is the one going to be the prettiest.
Now, who is that?
This is Posh.
Okay.
With her, she reminds us of Trouble. We think she's Trouble. Aren't you pretty, girl? Aren't you pretty?
Okay. Go.
Okay. So on the day, which is not to say this is how it will be, but if I were choosing, I would probably choose this one because she is, to me, the most familiar. She looks like her mother, and she has a very sweet expression.
Which one is that now? You haven't
This,
said.
this is Sporty.
Okay.
And she doesn't have as much muzzle and everything, but neither did her mother. It came later, so I think it could come. And she's very athletic. She has a good temperament. So I think just if I was picking just for me as a favorite, this would be it. Now, we've talked about, I'm not sure how much creekwood she got. So that could be an issue, just trying to bring in something from our breeding that we bred for. But I really like her, and I think maybe she's got a great little body, some lower hocks, and very clean underneath. So maybe just because she's the most familiar.
for me on this day and most days, when I look in there, I gravitate towards Ginger. One, I think it is a little bit of her flashiness. For me, that's a big piece to it. I said when I did my bedtime story, when you walk into a ring with a dog, you only get one first impression. And having that little bit of glitz and glam and flash when you walk in there is important because it catches the judge's eye, and when they go back to make that final choice, that dog that caught their eye first, albeit it passes all the other standards, I think they gravitate back towards that. For me also, I think out of this group, her eye is the prettiest, and some of that I think came from our stuff, but I do think some of that came from Dammit, and I think for me, the idea of doing an outcross, part of that is bringing in stuff from that outcross family that you're going to. So her being a little more Dammit than Trouble is appealing to me.
But I will say also about this one that she reminds us of her half-sister that we have. Belva's coming around again, and she has a lot of the same attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So
When Jenny coming around
she
again
may be the
was this age, she was also the one that had a little more substance, a little more size to her, much like Ginger does. So, and maybe in the back of my mind that's attractive to me, and remembering that.
well, I think she could be the blend, and so that's kind of why you maybe do a breeding, is you want to get a little bit, but you want to keep a little bit. So she may be the blend, you know, of the breeding, so.
So I think on the day, there's a lot of things about Sporty that I agree I like a lot. She does remind me of her mother the most out of all of the puppies here, so obviously that's incredibly enticing to have that in your box when you're looking back at it, knowing how wonderful a dog Trouble is now. I think she has a little less flash for me, but you know, she's really clean under here and has a really nice profile to her, so that's definitely a positive for her when I look at her. But she definitely is more familiar and more our stuff and her mom than I think she is. I don't know there's any damn it in there when I look at her, but you never know. When we see her move as a 6-month-old or a 10-month-old, we might change our minds. She's moving across the ring. But,
Okay, good.